Good morning. Welcome to today's class. Today we have the pleasure of having Rabbi Baruch Gartner from Kollel. He runs a midnight Chatzos, midnight where people learn Torah and people wake up at midnight and they're able to cry over the temple and cry out for the potential that people have lost. Rabbi, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here.
Welcome. Nice to see you here in Florida. Your work is great.
Here at Kodesh.
And the Rabbi also has a book called
Living Aligned.
Living Aligned?
Yes.
Great. So today we're going to talk about a book called Dark Matters of the Soul by Sarah Yehudis. The Kabbalah of Shame. I've spoken about this, and he happens to bring this book.
Love it.
And I
Love
think
it.
the book is really, it's very powerful. I think it'll save you probably thousands of hours of therapy. Because if you realize where the source is coming from.
Read it well.
It's excellent. Again, Dark Matters of the Soul, the Kabbalah of Shame.
Yeah, I also want to just remind people that last time I was here, I held up a book called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Mm-hmm. And I just want to explain how I got from one to the other.
Right.
Because nonviolent communication really should be compassionate communication. But what happens is that he holds, and I totally agree with him, that people are not taught how to feel their feelings. Mm-hmm. And that's really the root problem, is that we bury our feelings. And because we bury our feelings, that reaction creates an imbalance. And people usually communicate in a hostile way because they want to get their needs met. So I don't want to go through the book itself, and I talked a lot about this in the series that I'm in now, which is The Power to Rule. But this brings us to this book, which just came out a year ago. And I'm fascinated with it because it aligns very much with the teaching of Rabbi Nachman, which we have open here, Torah number 34 in Likutei Moharan, where you read where the first words of the teaching Rabbi Nachman brings. It's a very difficult line from Psalms, "Disgrace has shattered my heart." It sounds terrible. And really, that's the problem, is that shame, disgrace, is something that people want to avoid. And when you avoid this, you don't realize that you're avoiding something that's really the problem, that's the opportunity for your life rectification. And not just that, the whole entire world's rectification.
But at the same time, she says it's in our DNA.
Exactly.
So it's something that's even part of you, your DNA. But I mean, the positive side of this, I guess, whatever shame or failure, whatever you call it, is people became very successful, or people will do anything to avoid it. So if you use the shame, or if you use that energy just to avoid shame, like for example, a player would do anything to avoid losing the game publicly, right? Except for the Knicks yesterday, obviously. But what people would do to avoid shame, it can actually bring them to a tremendous amount of use that energy to empower themselves. So I saw that angle in there also, that if you use it positively, like this is, I don't want this life anymore. Okay.
Exactly. And it's imperative that we become aware and learn how to deal with these feelings, because if you don't, you will, like you say, project them out in the world. And this is what she comes to in the book. In the finale of the book, she brings up this baseless hatred, is that improper dealing with your own stuff, which is your own failures. And once again, just let's say you're brought into the world, which is immature, you're brought into the world, you're just not there yet. So if a person doesn't deal with that, you're not going to get mature. You're going to go around blaming your parents, blaming your spouse, blaming other people, or God forbid, blaming the whole Jewish people, which is baseless hatred, which is the reason that we're in exile right now. Now she says that, I mean, in the book, she kind of says, like, I really don't know how we're going to get to the end. I don't know how we're going to get there. But interestingly enough, Rabbi Nachman gives us a formula right in the first words here of the teaching. In one paragraph, he says that the rectification of this is to bind one's heart to the point that's applicable to one's heart at this moment. Now, he gives us a lot of options here, because there's more than just one place the person can heal his heart. But let's go through the three that Rabbi Nachman talks about. And really, the three are much more broad than you can imagine, not just three. So the first one, which is the most important one, is your own heart has in it, inside, an aspect called a point, which is your righteousness, your soul, the part of you that's not embarrassed, the part of you that's really good, your higher self, the soul. And therefore, when you feel specifically the embarrassment, you need to talk it out. You need to get in touch with that part of yourself. And that's really the therapeutic way of living. Instead of feeling bad all day long, sit yourself down, address it, basically take away the pain and the shame by feeling it and getting in touch with the part of you that can heal that.
Right, or even to a point where people hurt themselves because other people hurt them. So that's even the worst case, because this is a lot of the inner child stuff today is they felt hurt and then all of a sudden they're hurting themselves. It's like somebody scratching your car, you're taking your car and smashing the wall.
Okay, so now we can come to the second point, and that is a lot of times when people feel shame, the first thing they do is they shut down, especially if somebody else shamed them, they called them a name, and they go further and further introverted, and they cut themselves off from all mankind. And that's really the second piece of advice that Rabbi Nachman gives, and that's to connect with your friends.
Right.
You have to find friends that are already, to a certain degree, working on their baggage. Right. They're doing the inner work. They're connected to the teachings of the righteous, and they can help you when you sit down together. Sometimes you can't do it yourself. You need to attach yourself to friends. You need a good circle of friends. Look at the room here. So all good people coming together on a daily basis, talking about advice how you can get out of the mud. So you need friends. It's very important to have a group of friends. And it's very important to realize that sometimes you can't do it yourself. You really need somebody. And now I want you to read the next little thing here, because this is going to bring us to the third point.
And the words of the tzaddik are certainly spoken with perfection and fullness.
Meaning to say that his words are different.
Right. Therefore, he can draw bounty to Israel. This is why the aspect is called the aspect of full mouth, to indicate the mouth is full and perfect.
Meaning to say that there are different levels of perfection. You certainly have in your heart a holy aspect that's called the point of the righteous. And your friend also has a holy side to him. But then there are people who are just on a different level. They're just on a different level. And a lot of people don't realize that one of the 613 mitzvahs, they don't realize it's called clinging to God. And if you want to know how to perform a mitzvah, first of all, we do a lot of things that are mitzvahs that aren't from the 613 mitzvahs. And even the 613 mitzvahs, like for instance, tefillin or any Shabbos, it's not a mitzvah, constant mitzvah. This mitzvah of clinging to God is not only one of the 613, but it's a 613 constant. And I've asked many people, how do you fulfill this mitzvah? And people don't realize that's exactly what Rabbi Nachman's talking here now. You got to find yourself somebody who's on a higher level than you. Because if you don't, you can't be in this chain of connection. There are people who have they don't have the shame that normal people have because they've worked it through. They're on the level of perfection of shame, which is called modesty, which is tikkun habrit, which you're talking about all the time, is that they're on a higher level of conduct. Therefore, if you want to get out of your shame, you really need to
connect to tzaddik.
And now the idea is that if a lot of people start doing this, it changes the whole vibe of the world. And this is what we're hoping for, is that we're going to turn baseless hatred into the opposite, which is loving your brother like yourself, which is the all-encompassing mitzvah where people can connect because they're dealing with the barriers that are separating them. They're dealing with the things that keep people from pointing fingers at other people. They're taking care of their own business. And that brings the unity, which brings Hashem's blessings to the world and the divine presence.